Ciao everyone and welcome back to another episode of Learn Italian with Songs. Namely, today we are going to talk about Fango in Paradiso by Francesca Michielin. As usual, let's start from the translation of the title, which can be literally translated as Mud in Paradise. Meaning wise, as usual, I found a statement by the artist, also because Francesca Michielin is quite famous for being quite open and active on social media. And generally, it is quite easy to find interviews where she explains things about the lyrics of her songs, the music of her songs. Like, as far as I know, every now and then she also publishes TikToks and short videos explaining things about the melody because she is a musician. So she likes a lot to give informations about her songs, and I have to say, request more songs by Francesca Michielin because my job is so easy like this, and in fact this song is no exception. So what did she say about Fango in Paradiso, her entry for Sanremo Music Festival 2025? So she said, Fango in Paradiso is a love song. It's about a love story that ended or that is ending in some way. And basically, there's a lot of longing. I don't know what else to say. One might say, well, everyone sings love songs, but in reality, I've never written or interpreted a love song like this. We'll see why. The image that I can describe this song is ivy. Yes, the plant, the ivy. And in fact, the ivy is also present in the lyrics. It is a climbing plant, something that covers things. And even if it is fascinating when decorating homes, it still gives you a sense of a place that is perhaps uninhabited, no one's lived there. A place where people no longer hang out at, where they no longer talk to each other anymore. Hence, this lack of life that is created in the relationship. Buonasera. So, why this idea of the ivy, of the climbing ivy, it is so important? Because, as Francesca Michielin explained, at least in her mind, ivy is often related to an abandoned house. Okay, so we imagine a house where nobody is living in anymore, and that is true. Often we have ivy taking over. Okay, because ivy, edera in Italian, it is a so-called pianta infestante, so it is very aggressive and invades quite easily. So often when a house is abandoned, it is quite easy to find ivy. Also because ivy is quite of a resistant plant, at least certain types of ivy, and they can grow pretty much everywhere. Quite resistant, to be fair. And so this idea makes sense. So she uses this ivy that we are going to find also in the lyrics as an image to describe a relationship that is becoming inhabited. So where the partners are not living in anymore, so an abandoned relationship, right? And that's the particularity of this love song. Is this that original? I don't know. For sure, for her it is, because at least according to her words, this was her first love song talking about this type of relationship. Because yes, we have certain like different types of relationships that can be described and told in love songs. So, in fact, some people, for the themes, not for the melody, compare this song to a song by Taylor Swift, which is titled The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. And I personally see the similarities, also because what Francesca Michielin describes in her song, it is a situation, sadly, that can happen to everyone. In fact, like, many appreciated it because it is very relatable, is very human, okay? That said, as usual, we are going to see the lyrics. And then get ready, because I have some juicy things to say in the discussion. But, as usual, lyrics first. So, once again, we have a quite classic building of the song. We have an intro, verse, chorus, post-chorus, verse, chorus, post-chorus, bridge, and outro, which is a variation of the post-chorus. Clean, easy. And in fact, we start with the intro. Dopo 100.000 lacrime, after 100,000 tears, 100.000 a 100,000, le grondaie cadono, the gutters fall. Non so se vorrei rifarlo da capo. I don't know if I want to do it all over again. Quasi speravo tu mi avessi tradito. I almost hoped you'd betrayed me. You betrayed me. Ti avrei scritto tutto in un messaggio. I would have written you everything in a message, ma non sapevo se ero in grado. But I didn't know if I was capable. Mi hai fatta piangere fuori dallo stadio. You made me cry outside the stadium. Ma avrei voluto fosse tutt'altro. But I wish it was something else, like completely something else, tutt'altro. So, as usual, a couple of notes. Grondaia. Grondaia, it is a word used in Italian, but I reckon that for non-Italian speakers it might be not that common. Why? Because la grondaia, plural in this case, le grondaie, is the gutter. So, what is the gutter? It is, or la grondaia, it is the part next to, the part in the house next, or in a building, next to the, what in Italian is called gronda. Grondaia. Gronda, a derivated word. Now, good question, what is a gronda? A gronda is what in English is called the eaves. And again, part of the house about which you don't talk about every day, like a door or a window. So what is this thing? The eaves are the part of a building's roof that protrudes beyond the wall to protect it from rainwater. So, la gronda, or thieves, la gronda, le gronde. I reckon that in English there is also there is only the plural about the eaves. So the eaves are those little piece of the roof that is longer than the building, okay, to protect it from the rain. So what happens that when it rains, I'm talking about houses with rooftops like that. So the rooftop gathers the water, direction it to this edge of the roof, and on the edge is attached the gutter, la grondaia. What is the purpose of this part of the roof? To gather the drops of rain, the raindrops. That's why she's using it as a metaphor of something gathering the tears that represent the pain in the relationship. So after 100,000 years the gathers fall, it means that at certain point, after having cried so much in a relationship, you reach the breaking point. Just like a gather would fall, would break with too much rain, okay? It is to symbolize the breaking point of the relationship. Non so se vorrei rifarlo da capo. I don't know if I do it all over again. So, I've seen, maybe this is my perception, but I've seen many songs mentioning, love songs, mentioning in the lyrics, I would do it all over, I would do everything all over again, just like it was. As in, even if the relationship has ended, it was worth it, I loved you until the end, or like, I don't know, I am so happy and the relationship is still going and I would do everything all over again. But here, the artist puts the opposite sense. So, since the relationship wasn't good, because you have those relationships that end, but they had good moments. So you say, even if it ended, I would do it again. Also because all relationships are meant to finish, because to end, because at certain point one of the partners dies physiologically, since we are not immortal. So there is this eventuality, but since you had nice moments in the relationship, despite the negative outcome, which is physiological from a certain point of view, you would do it again. From the start all over again. But here the artist says, I don't know about it, because the relationship wasn't that good, it was mainly negative, okay? And in fact, yeah, sorry Gaso for that. Sometimes I become a little bit dark without wanting, but I am very, how can I say? Not nihilist, but like very practical, so I don't really care. I'm not a romantic at all. But yeah, and in fact, to underline the fact that this relationship wasn't going well at any point, she says, I almost hope you betrayed me, you cheated on me, okay? I'm sorry, Gaso. I promise I will give back with gossip. Have faith. So, anyway, since the relationship apparently wasn't going well at any point, she said, at this point, I was hoping you were cheating on me or something, because, it's that thing that at least it would make sense. You wouldn't be an asshole just for the sake of it. At least it would be logic. And like, I understand it, because some people, and this actually also happened to me, prefer like something big happen, right? Example, in my life, I never ended a relationship because I wanted to start a relationship with a person right away, right after. So like I break up with you because I want to stay with another person. Usually the moment I feel uninterested in a relationship, I just break up. Also because of a matter of respect like for the other person. And I had some people who were convinced that I didn't break up with them because the relationship wasn't working, but they were hoping and they were convincing themselves that I broke up to start dating someone else. It often happened that sometime after a breakup, I started to date other people. But because generally I have many friends, so I talk with a lot of people, even if it doesn't seem. And so naturally it happened. But like that wasn't the reason. Usually when I give up on a relationship, it's not because I want to start another one, but because that relationship doesn't work. And there are many people who prefer the opposite. A little bit just like, in some cases, like to have an excuse, just like, oh, so it wasn't me. Of course, I'm not talking about the case of the song, because I will explain why this story is complex. But some people relate a lot with this because they prefer, like, okay, it's not that I am bad, it's just that they found someone better than me, but it's not me, it's them. Also, like, this fact about the cheating is also a bit to blame the other person. Yeah, it's a very beautiful emoji, caso. So, it is also the whole part of giving the blame, of putting the blame on the other person. Because, like, if someone cheats on you, you are graced, like you are the good partner in the relationship, and the other part is an asshole. The other partner was an asshole. It's something that I will never understand, because it's quite funny. If you had relationships during your teenage, you will always be the crazy ex of someone. Just like you have the story about your crazy ex, your ex probably sees you as the crazy ex as well. And this can happen also when you are in your early 20s and whatnot, because human beings tend to be unhinged in teenage years. And also until 25 years old or so, like as a humankind, as a species, we tend to be quite unhinged in that developmental age of our life. So yeah, it is always funny to me to see all these people trying to put the blame of the relationship on the other person. Like, I didn't do anything, I was fucking perfect, I had the crazy ex. Again, is not the case of Francesca Michielin, because knowing what happened, she was the victim in the relationship of some toxic behaviors. But it is funny that many people relate, because it is always the other person. It's quite funny to me. Now, about these other two lines, ti avrei scritto tutto in un messaggio, ma non sapevo se ero in grado. I would have written you everything in a message, but I didn't know if I was capable. Now, the issue is that this part of the song was criticized because it is very heavy under, like, if we take into consideration grammar and syntax. Because you could say the same thing in a easier way, because you could say non so se sarei stata in grado di scriverti un messaggio. di scriverti tutto in un messaggio. Because the problem is that there is an issue here with the consecutio temporum, because here there is an indicative, but the issue is that it is not really an hypothetical period, because as I said, it's not really an hypothetical period, because it would be in Italian non sapevo se sarei stata in grado di scriverti un messaggio. This is one of the rare cases where we should use the condizionale with se, if, because it is not really an hypothesis, an hypothetic period. So here I personally don't know, because from a certain point of view it makes sense to build a sentence like this. I will explain. So here she's trying to convey something very difficult for her, which is like when you break up, when a relationship ends abruptly, you are mad about it, the fact that you want to vent texting or talking to the other person, like to have closure. Why am I speaking about closure? Because in this song it is very important. This song was inspired to something that happened in real life, it is taken from a real experience of the artist, because she was ghosted. Ghosting, it is a term that nowadays is abused. Ghosting is not simply when someone is not texting you anymore. Ghosting is the abrupt and systematic not closure, like ending, the abrupt and systematic ending of a relationship by cutting any mean of contact. So what happened that Francesca Michielin was a lot of time ago in a relationship, and one day, without any previous talk or any previous discussion, her boyfriend broke up with her. I don't remember if he called or texted her, but basically he just broke up with her and interrupted any type of communication. Of course, this is ghosting. So, like, when the person basically disappears, refuses to give further information on the ending of the relationship, like anything. It is not about someone you text on a social media and at a certain point they are not answering you anymore. No, ghosting is about having a relationship and the relationship ends abruptly because the other person is not communicating with you anymore by any means and avoids you. Sometimes my turtle bites the air. So, what happened is that of course, it was a traumatic experience. Ghosting, it is problematic because it is a traumatic experience. Why? Because it takes away the closure from one of the two people. Usually, it is normal when you end a relationship to have one last chat, one last explanation, something to have closure. Okay. I find it personally like a form of respect towards the other partner, even when you don't want to have that discussion. I know it because, first of all, I am a person who, if it is possible, I want to talk about the breakup in person, also to give the other person to have closure. Because I know that this is very important and because it is what I would like. Because we as human beings, we need closure, okay, to get over something or someone. Ghosting takes away this closure. So that's why I'm saying the syntax and the grammar being so heavy and difficult makes sense, because in a certain way it expresses what she was going through. And again, Francesca Michielin is an amazing singer, an amazing musician. She wrote, this is not the first lyrics she writes, so she has experience. She is 30 years old, so like she's not a little girl, an expert little girl. So I can assume that this was something she wanted to do for a matter of style. Again, I cannot be certain, but I don't think it is respectful, like just talking shit about the artist, considering that they are perfectly able to convey and to make a stylistic choice like this one. And then one last note: mi hai fatta piangere fuori dallo stadio, ma avrei voluto fosse tutt'altro. You made me cry outside the stadium, but I wish it was something else completely. Tutt'altro, it is something else completely. Like it is a reinforcement, okay? What does she mean? Probably because it is okay crying, but it would be better crying because of joy, for example. So I would interpret it like that. Then we have the first verse. E va bene, and that's fine. E va bene, and that's fine. E va bene così, and that's fine like this. Non mi aspetto niente di sensato. I don't expect anything sensible, which means that makes sense. Come quei cartelli gialli per terra con su scritto, like those yellow signs on the ground that say, attenzione, il pavimento è bagnato. Caution, the floor is wet. Come se, as if, cambiasse ancora qualcosa così. Something would change again like this. Ci vorrebbe un'altra vita in un film. It would take another life in a movie. So, e va bene così, it is a quote. This is not my interpretation, it is like Francesca Michielin confirmed it in one of the interviews. It is a reference to Vasco Rossi, another very famous Italian singer. So it's like, in this case, it is pretty much like, it is what it is, like, whatever. I didn't like that, but whatever at this point. And then she says, I don't really expect that it makes sense at this point. Because, like, if you are in a relationship where the other person is not respecting you for the entirety of the relationship, is not this great surprise the fact that the relationship ends with just another disrespectful act. It is a bit like, I mean, I didn't like that. I didn't have my closure. but at this point you were like a piece of shit for the entire relationship. What did I expect, right? And then she says, come quei cartelli gialli per terra con su scritto attenzione il pavimento è bagnato, like those yellow signs on the ground that say caution, the floor is wet. You know, wet floor. Con su scritto, by the way, literally means with written on it, implied that. And it means which says, but con su scritto is a collocation, I would say, that is pretty much used in Italian. Also, it is a classic sign you put when you wash the floors to avoid people sleeping on it. This apparently it is a central image because it appears also on the cover of the song. What exactly it means, I am not sure. For how for how it is formulated, the image in this part. In my humble opinion, it means that unhealthy behaviors in a relationship can be compared to these attention signs, these caution signs, right? Because it probably this is another image similar to the red flag, right? So if you see the caution wet floor, what do you expect? That the floor is wet, and if you walk on it, you might hurt yourself. In the same way, when a person exhibits disrespectful behaviors in a relationship, what do you expect? You should expect getting hurt because it is the logical sign. It is the logical connection, the logical outcome. So probably what she's saying it is, what did I expect? The signals were there, right? Of course, I was about to get hurt. And in fact, as if something would change again like this. But like at this point, it is what it is, what was, it had been, and so on and so on and so on. Ci vorrebbe un'altra vita in un film, it would take another life in a movie. Again, I don't know exactly what she means because it could be that in a movie you would need another life. That a relationship like that could be fixed only in a fictional setting because in reality relationship like this don't get fixed because the other partner usually there's no commitment from the other partner. I don't know, this is kind of how I see it. And then we have the chorus, e quanto amore sprecherò, and how much love I will waste, quanti vetri rotti, how many broken glasses, che sono plastica, that are plastic, per i tuoi stupidi occhi, for your stupid eyes. Se non piangi mai, if you never cry, programmare un addio chiusi in macchina, planning a goodbye locked in the car. Era tutta teoria ma non pratica. It was all theory but not practice. Mi dispiace però, I'm sorry though, a volte capita, sometimes it happens, di volersi sempre, to want each other always, o mai più, or never again. I see a lot of sarcasm and underlying rage in these words. Personal opinion, again. Okay, first of all, she says, e quanto amore sprecherò, and how much love I will waste. I don't know if this can count as futuro epistemico. It is a it is a borderline futuro epistemico because I think she's talking about the past. However, it is also important to say that despite this being the first thought when a relationship doesn't work, because at least to me it happened more than love, I would think more about time because again, I'm very practical as a person. It happened to me to think, my God, I wasted so much time with this person when something goes wrong. But then, like she actually said in one of the interviews, actually, I am aware that love is never wasted because in the end, we always learn something, and there is always at least one moment that was worth it, right? Otherwise, the thing wouldn't even have happened if it was all bad, right? And I have to agree. The first reaction can be, oh my God, I wasted so much time, so much love, so much resources on this person, and you are kind of angry with yourself. But then usually you realize that it was worth it because you learned something. And then she's talking about plastic. Why plastic? It is used in as opposed to the broken glasses. Now, when we think about plastic, what do we think about? We think about something fake if compared to the glass, right? Because having like glasses, like from which you drink, it is seen a bit cheap, the same thing but in plastic, right? So it can mean a bit fake because this idea of being fake will come back later, not as valuable as glass, a bit cheap, and probably because also when we think about plastic, we think about something that is very hard, almost impossible to break. So you don't really handle it with care, right? Because whatever is plastic is fake, it is cheap, it's not going to break, so like I kinda abuse the object. And probably this is a bit the image of how the partner was seeing the relationship. And in fact, she says, per I tuoi stupidi occhi, for or like in your stupid eyes. And in fact, talking about being fake, she basically say, you never cried, you never cry. So probably in this image about planning a goodbye locked in the car, I can think of an argument. So when you are in the car, stuck with the other person, maybe you are wondering about breaking up with them. It's something that can happen if you are in a relationship that is not happy. And at this point, it is also a bit, you never cry. So for the breakup, I can think of, so where people are in pain, end up crying and whatnot, you are not going to cry because you don't really care. But it could also be a reference to the experience of being ghosted. Why it is old theory but not practice? Because in the end, the breakup, it doesn't happen. If you think about the phenomenon of ghosting, it is often put in place by people who are scared or like simply they don't want to deal with a discussion. They don't want to be confronted. They just cut everything and they solve it like that. Of course, as I was saying, it is very disrespectful if we think about the other partner because it doesn't give them closure. So it is very egoistic as an act, and that's why it is considered unhealthy and negative. But also because there is no goodbye. The goodbye, it is not reciprocated, it is not to each other, it is imposed from one of the partners to the other. So the goodbye, she was thinking, she was planning in her head because she wanted to break up. It was all theory but not practice because it never happened, and also because probably wouldn't have happened also because the guy didn't cry, never ever apparently. And in fact, this is where I see a lot of sarcasm. I'm sorry, sometimes it happens. No, because technically something like that shouldn't happen. And but what? To want each other always or never again. And here we have a clear reference to the abrupt ending. Okay? Because it doesn't happen that you want to be together forever or always wanting to always be together, and then from a day to another you don't want to see the person ever again, unless of course you have certain very specific mental diseases, mental illnesses. But generally chances are this is not going to happen. So either the relationship was fake since the beginning, or the other person was manipulative, or it was planned since long time, and the decision was imposed without any chance to have an actual discussion. Anyway, it is very problematic. And then we have the post-chorus. Non c'è più il soffitto. There is no ceiling anymore. Chissà con chi farai un figlio. Who knows who you will have a child with. Se poi cambierai indirizzo. If then you will change your address. Se c'è fango in paradiso. If there is mud in paradise. Now, Non c'è più il soffitto is a reference to another Italian song titled Il cielo in una stanza by Gino Paoli. Then we have our beautiful Chissà, Who Knows, I Wonder. And Chissà con chi farai un figlio. Now, here is not random this question, because she's not even asking, oh my god, who's going to be your next girlfriend? No, who will be the partner with whom you'll have a child? And it makes sense because, as I was saying, Francesca Michielin this year became 30 years old. I read some posts on the social media like, oh, it is socially accepted in Italy having children late. No, guys, no, it is not socially accepted. Many people are really trying hard to have their child around 30 years old. The issue is that many people, since the job market in Italy sucks, cannot afford to have a child around 30 years old. They have to wait most likely around 40, which is a problem. Many people don't want to wait so long to have a child, but it is their only choice if they want to grant some dignity to their children. But in Italy, many people expect you to have children around 30 years old, which technically wouldn't even be that impossible, because in other countries, like for example in France, people are able to achieve economical stability earlier and thus have children earlier. But also it is a matter of time. Like, you want to become stable, economically speaking, because it is also easier to handle children when you are younger. Like, I'm not even 30, but I wouldn't have issues having a child now. My problem is, however, that I am in a city, for example, in France, where there is a heavy crisis concerning healthcare, even private healthcare, because there are no medics. And since I have a combo of health issues, if I don't have a medic taking care of me during pregnancy, I risk to die. Like, the chances of me dying with the child are very high. So, like, despite me and Alex wanting children, we cannot, because we have this issue, for example. And in Italy, it is often for lack of medical assistance, because in Italy we are having big issues with public healthcare as well. The fact that many places don't take your child, because technically in Italy you can send your child at school, so you can go back to work and provide for your child since the child is 6 months old. But the problem is that, first of all, this type of kindergarten costs a shit ton. Second of all, because they are often full and they don't take new children. But at this point, it is hard to find someone taking care of your child while you are at work. But do you really want to sacrifice one wage? Can you afford to sacrifice one wage? Also, the fact that usually it is expected that the mother stays at home with the child and never the father. So many women don't want to lose their independence and don't want to lose their career because they care about it. So they just have to choose between having a child and working, which is not a choice you should be obliged to do. And yet, there we are. Simply because even with 2 wages, it's not granted that you can afford to have a child, because we have problems with wages in Italy. But also, as in the song, people not being ready for long-term relationships, faking their commitment, not being honest even with themselves, and then ending abruptly the relationships. The case of Francesca Michielin is not the first one I hear of. Like, I've seen people approaching their 30s, having the discussion, what do you want to do with your life, with their partner, and the partner being completely lost. In fact, I learned something very fast, which is within the first 6 months of dating, setting clear boundaries and deal breaker with the other person, saying, I want this, and this. You don't want to, you are not sure? Next, because I'm not going to waste maybe 4 years of my life in a moment where it is crucial for me to meet people with someone who doesn't know what they want, or like they know they have life goals not compatible with mine. So like also this is a big problem. And in fact, I've read online people saying, I felt it because it happens to a lot of us, not only women, also men, to have people not committed until the end to the relationship and then breaking up with us, ruining our plans, forcing us to rebuild the idea of our future starting from zero, a relationship, because they lied on what their life goals are. So I understand the frustration. Then if you will change the address, like if you leave the place, if you'll go live somewhere else, and then finally, se c'è fango in paradiso, if there is mud in paradise, giving the name to the song. Now, you might think that this is something negative, because the mud in paradise, I don't know, because the paradise is supposedly something perfect, okay? But we want something perfect? That's the real question. And in fact, this, and again, I'm not making this up, it was actually confirmed by the artist, this is a reference to another Italian song by Fabrizio De André, one of our best songwriters. Dall'etame nascono i fior. So basically, the complete quote is: dai diamanti non nasce niente, dall'etame nascono i fior. So, from diamonds nothing grows, in diamonds nothing grows, nothing is born, there's no life. From shit, the letame is the compost you add in fields to feed the earth and get better products, but the idea is basically from shit you get flowers. It is then not really something negative or a hope, so like I hope that you are going to have a shitty relationship all over again. No, it is that little bit of hope that even in paradise, so the perfect place by definition, there is a little bit of mud, so like something negative that dirties it, because it makes it more human, because we have no perfection in our lives as human beings. This life is not meant for perfection. And in fact, there is a very fun thing if you think about it, which is the etymology of perfect. Perfect comes from Latin perfectus, which means ended, finished. Do you know what is perfect? Death. Because after you die, you cannot change anymore, so you are perfect, you are ended. That's why life cannot be perfect. Life, it is meant to be imperfect, because if there is imperfection in your life, rejoice, for you are alive. And it is a little bit this concept of the yin and the yang, of the balance of things, generally speaking, because you need a bit of mud in your paradise to have balanced things, because such is life. Don't be sad, Gasso. For once, I'm actually saying something good, something positive. So, and then we have the second verse. Quante volte mi avrai fatto il cinema? How many times you have made me a scene? Have you made me a scene? Dentro a quel supermercato, inside that supermarket. Non so se l'avevi considerato. I don't know if you had considered it. Che uno dei due sarebbe stato da schifo. That one of the two would have felt awful. ma va bene, but it's okay, va bene, it's okay, più o meno così, more or less like this. Non mi aspetto niente di sensato, I don't expect anything sensible that makes sense, da chi l'edera la compra già finta, from those, in Italian it is singular, who buy ivy already fake, e poi in estate la tiene su un balcone in un vaso. And then in the summer they kept it on a balcony in a pot. Come se, as if, cambiasse ancora qualcosa così. Something would change again like this. Ci vorrebbe un'altra vita in un film. It would take another life in a movie. Usually this last part serves as a bridge towards the chorus. So, quante volte mi avrei fatto il cinema? Ok, first of all, this, I'm sure of it, it is a futuro epistemico, so we got it. In this case, it is not a future used to describe a future action, but something that already happened or is happening, like in this case already happened, and it is more like a guess, as saying I wonder, okay, to express uncertainty. And in fact, the point is that I wonder how many times you made me a scene, because fare il cinema literally means to make, to do the cinema, okay? There are other idioms with the same meaning, for example, fare una scenata or fare una sceneggiata, which is exactly like to make a scene in English. Why? Because it describes an overreaction of someone so exaggerated that it seems like it comes from a movie scene or a theater scene. This is the image, the picture conveyed by this idiom. So imagine like someone making a ruckus in a supermarket, so probably for futile reasons. And again, I don't know if you had considered that one of the two would have felt awful. However, in Italian sarebbe stato da schifo. Schifo is gross, usually, okay, when something bad that you don't want. But it can also be used to describe a feeling, a situation, which is basically where you feel awful. So it is worse than bad. That was the point. And then we have other dissing towards the guy, and that's why I was saying before that the sign represented the red flags in the relationship, because here we have explicitly mentioned one of the red flags happen in the relationship told by Francesca Michielin. Apparently, her boyfriend used to buy fake ivy, ledera finta, and then in summer he was putting it in a vase like it was real and exposing it on the balcony, like to show, look, I am a good gardener or something, I don't know. Because usually if you get fake plants, mainly like ivy, you just put it as a decoration. Like, why should you put it in a pot? It is fake. So here she is pretty much saying, I should have seen it. I should have understood that you were a fake person. Because if you even have to fake your plans and expose them like they are real on your balcony, you're clearly a fake person. So I should have seen this coming. I should have noticed this red flag. And then we have the chorus and the post-chorus. E quanto amore sprecherò, quanti vetri rotti, che sono plastica per i tuoi stupidi occhi. And how much love I will waste, how many broken glasses that are plastic in your stupid eyes. Se non piangi mai, programmare un addio chiusi in macchina era tutta teoria ma non pratica. If you never cry, planning a goodbye locked in the car, it was all theory but not practice. Mi dispiace però a volte capita di volersi sempre o mai più. I'm sorry though, sometimes it happens to want each other always or never again. Of course, with sarcasm. Non c'è più il soffitto, chissà con chi farai un figlio, se poi cambierai indirizzo, se c'è fango in paradiso. There is no ceiling anymore, who knows you will have a child with, if you will then change your address, if there is mud in paradise. And then we have a bridge. Ma non lo so. But I don't know. Programmare un addio chiusi in macchina. Planning a goodbye locked in the car. Quote, like referencing the chorus. Quasi zero poesia, solo pratica. Almost zero poetry, just practice. Mi dispiace però, I'm sorry though, a volte capita, sometimes it happens, di volersi sempre, to want each other always o mai più, or never again. Which is this bridge, it is basically a variation of the chorus. So, however, there is a change because here we have quasi zero poesia, solo pratica, almost zero poetry, just practice. But why? Because it seems a bit the opposite of what she's saying in the chorus, because she says era tutta teoria ma non pratica. It was all theory but not practice. Now, my idea here is that she's describing the things from his perspective. So, you didn't want that romantic and cathartic breakup where you cry under the rain after a discussion and whatnot. Very messy, very poetic, a lot of poetry, but also very cathartic, to be honest, because you cry, you argue, you do your things and whatnot. So, while she was planning that cathartic breakup in her mind while they were locked in the car, he was planning a not very poetic breakup, but very practical, sending her a message to break up with her and then ghost her. Very practical from his point of view, of course. And then we end with an outro, which is a variation of the post-chorus, just like the bridge was a variation of the chorus. Non c'è più il soffitto. As usual, there is no ceiling anymore. Chissà se ti vedrò in giro. I wonder if I'll see you around. Se avrai perso, se avrò vinto. If you have lost, if I have won. Se c'è fango in paradiso. If there is mud in paradise. Now we have these two central line changing. So problem here, the classic wonder of when you break up, like, oh my god, what if I see you around and whatnot. All these are cases of futuro epistemico. se avrai perso, se avrò vinto, if you have lost, if I have won. Because that is true. It is quite common after a relationship ends, mainly if you are the one who's like taking the breakup, if the breakup is enforced on you, saying like probably it was for the best, like your loss, right? Which is a way to cope a bit with it, right? Oh my god, my gain, your loss, right? And that's why she's saying, I wonder if you have lost, like your loss, if I have won, my gain. Normally, I would say, don't worry, Francesca. You won because you don't want a person taking fake ivy and selling it as true to the neighbors. So, I'm pretty sure you won. Personal opinion. And that was the lyrics of Fango in Paradiso. Now, as I promised, I have the fever that is killing me, I swear to God. I'm like dying. And in fact, I'm very tempted to go and change myself because I feel like I'm boiling in the pajama. But anyway, let's talk about the gossip now. So, gossip time. I even have my tea. Now, where to start? Okay, first of all, the lyrics, as I said, was criticized for being banal, for having heavy syntactical structures. In my opinion, as I explained, it makes sense. Like, it is a love song, of course, the terms are colloquial. Not have everything has to be a full-on a full-on poem, like good enough. It did what it had to do. I'm not dying, I promise. On the good news to make Gaso and Ness happy, in the video there is a cameo by Fernando Alonso, the very famous pilot of Formula One. Because if you watch the video, I invite you to do so, of Fango in Paradiso, you can see that good portion of the video is recorded in a car where we have Francesca Michielin, also very important because I didn't mention it is Michielin with the I or E in Italian between the H and the E, so very important because basically everyone cannot spell her name, so people can find her. So, as I was saying, a good portion of the video is recorded in a car. Francesca Michielin is in the back seat. And she's singing on the backseat of the car, but there is someone driving. The person driving is in fact Fernando Alonso, because the two are friends. How is it possible, you might ask? Because some time ago Francesca Michielin released a song as a part of one of her albums titled Alonso. Since apparently Fernando Alonso, the pilot, is quite into Italian music and Italy in general, he found out about the song. He liked the song. Francesca Michielin is a great fan of Formula One. So they became friends. And so he participated in the video. Then some people compared the song to The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived by Taylor Swift for the theme. I would say that Fango in Paradiso is more delicate, while The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is more raging, is a little bit more like passive-aggressive, like it hits harder lyrics-wise. I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. I went to listen to the song specifically, so like Taylor Swift punches harder. Francesca Michielin is more poetic, let's put it like that. Then, talking about before Sanremo, she received some criticisms because of the cover of the song. Not cover as in other version of the song. No, I mean like the not physical, because it's digital technically, but the cover, the image used as a cover for the song. The picture represents the yellow sign of caution, wet floor, and this sign, it is in a room where the floor is wet, but there is ivy everywhere. Now, what is the problem? That the cover was generated with AI. And it is clear, in fact, it is borderline ugly. Like, AI, it is part of my expertise. So, from the legal side, of course. And personally, I don't recommend using AI for marketing purposes, like professional purposes, because first of all, it's not very professional. There are certain campaigns very specific that are made with all a certain planning and whatnot. In that case, I understand. But simply generating images, I wouldn't recommend it. Why? First of all, because they look cheap. They look cheap as fuck. Just hire and spend a little bit more for a designer or an artist to draw your picture, and you are going to get a result that is like 1,000 times better. Because trust me, experts notice if something is made with AI and it looks cheap, incredibly cheap. The other reason I advise against using AI-generated images, I'm going to put on the side the whole moral and ethical part, because otherwise we don't get out. But more practically, besides looking ugly as fuck, they can give you issues concerning intellectual property. So, if you are a singer and you want to use a certain image for your album, like call one of your friends and have them draw it. It would be better. The result is going to be better, and I would advise for it. Don't use AI-generated images, please. And in fact, she was criticized for that. She explained the choice, saying that she wasn't able to get it how she wanted otherwise. I don't know how this is possible, but I trust you, Francesca. I don't know what to tell you, but generally, I would advise against it. Now, other thing. The first time she participated in Sanremo Music Festival, Francesca Michielin fell down the stairs and she had to go around with one of her leg with a bandage or something. So, when she was invited again, during the presentation of the song, she said, "Oh, this time I'm ready. Last time I fell down the stairs. It is not going to happen anymore." That statement aged very well, just like fine wine. Because she fell again. Not only she fell, but she also broke a bone of her ankle. So, like, she was in pain like no tomorrow. She had to go around with the, oh my god, I don't know how they are called in English, le stampelle. Anyway, the supports you use to walk when you break one of your legs or have issues walking. And yeah, she fell again, she broke herself again, a tragic situation. We can see Gaso in the chat that is completely ruined by the Italian brain rot on TikTok. Anyway, so, and also, like, other gossip, injured ankle, 10 out of 10. Please stop, like, improve those stairs, because they are clearly a danger for to Francesca Michielin. Please hashtag save Francesca Michielin from Sanremo stairs. And then, dulcis in fundo, last but not least, the bullying session. So, what happened during Sanremo? We talked about it a bit when talking about the song by Ercomi, Un violento decrescendo. Because just like with Ercomi, people apparently notice after years of career that Ercomi speaks in cursive. People after years of career again notice that Francesca Michielin has a very peculiar style. Why? Because she always brings looks, so clothing, hairstyle, makeup, her whole style, it is very peculiar and one might say non-conventional. But it's not the first time. Like, she always been like this. She had even more non-conformist, like non-standard makeup, hairstyle, like style and everything the first time she participated in Sanremo Music Festival. And no one said that much. So my point is, I have this vague feeling that social media are becoming worse bullying wise, because what happened is that during Sanremo, basically nobody was talking about the song. Everyone was not criticizing her, insulting her for how she was dressed, for her haircut, for the makeup, because people were saying, "Oh, her makeup is shit, she should change her makeup artist." I don't know who the fuck made her a Hime style, because she was wearing, can you say wearing? I don't know. A very peculiar hairstyle, which is called the Hime cut, which is inspired by certain Japanese characters. We can put it like that. And apparently, the way she was wearing it was not correct, and she received a good amount of insults about it. And then, last but not least, she received an incredible amount of insults for her clothing choices. So basically, she had very peculiar bodies. Okay, so like the full piece that enters in your trousers, and then very specific trousers and very specific shoes. What is the problem? That, of course, for the shoes, she had some difficulties because her ankle was kept together with a very specific bandage. Okay, because and I want to stress it, she broke one of her bones. When you break one of your bones, you have to keep your shit together. Okay? And without applying the cast, because otherwise would have been very problematic to walk on or do anything for her applying the cast. Of course, she had to opt for a very specific bandage. Of course, she was having issues. Like, why am I even explaining this? I swear to God. So yeah, like just like with Ercomi, it is like incredible. What a timeline! The two most bullied singers, artists in Sanremo Music Festival basically sang together for the cover. They also made the cover of La Stella di Broadway by Cesare Cremonini. I love that song. 10 out of 10. I recommend listening to it. It is very beautiful. Both the original and the cover she and Ercomi performed on cover night. But it is very funny that the couple was them, considering that they got bullied to death and everyone ignored their songs. Because Il ritmo delle cose and Fango in Paradiso are very good songs. For the lyrics, for the music, I would say for the lyrics, more Ercomi, and for the music, more Fango in Paradiso. But this is my opinion because I am not too into love songs. Like, I am the anti-romantic, basically. Very stereotypical jurist from this point of view. Like, I am a jurist child of engineers. I have romance under my feet. Anyway, so of course, since I don't like too much love songs, I appreciated more the lyrics of Ercomi, of Ritmo delle Cose. But the song by Francesca Michielin is very beautiful. Also, like, she's an incredible musician, and it shows. And in fact, compared to The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived by Taylor Swift, personally, and I have the support of Alex in this, I prefer the melody of Fango in Paradiso. And the stupid thing is that exactly like it happened with Il ritmo delle cose, people realized after the end of the festival that Fango in Paradiso was actually a very good song and it deserves some attention. But everyone was focusing on insulting the style choices of Francesca Michielin. I don't think I have to add anything more, despite the fact that I want to point out that out of 29 artists, because one was eliminated before even starting, so out of 29, Fango in Paradiso and thus Francesca Michielin ranked 21st, with a song that, in my opinion, just like Il ritmo delle cose, like in a certain way, Fango in Paradiso ranked higher than Il ritmo delle cose, if I remember correctly, so already did better. But again, it is tragic, however, concerning the views, because I don't know how's going on Spotify, but on YouTube the video is one of the least watched. Like, it's quite down in the ranking. So usually it is not, but it is what it is. Like the only criticism in all of these that I can have is for the AI generated image for the cover. But again, it is also because I am generally against it because of my expertise. Like I'm a bit biased, let's put it like that. Is not because of her generally. I'm not mad, and I don't think the song should be judged just because she chooses to generate the image with the eye. I analyzed and valued the song despite this. I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. That said, it was a long stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think about Fango in Paradiso by Francesca Michielin. That said, grazie everyone for watching and arrivederci.